Hello and welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Theodore Henry. Monday, October 30 is the final day of Disarmament Week, where the United Nations agenda to bring about world peace is highlighted. This year's theme is Securing Humanity's Future. Come, we have another stimulating show for you, starting with the news.
Get involved as we transform education for national development. Join the Ministry of Education and Youth at the Jamaica College Auditorium for a town hall meeting on Thursday, November 2 at 6 p.m. Let your voice be heard as we discuss ways to reform the education sector for a brighter tomorrow. That's a town hall meeting on education transformation. Come or connect to our live stream on the JIS, MOEY, and PBCJ social media platforms. Transforming education for national development for a brighter tomorrow.
Good day, I'm Twyla Whelan, and this is your JS News for Monday, October 30, 2023. A 5.6 magnitude earthquake rocked Jamaica about 10:57 this morning. According to the earthquake unit, the epicenter of the earthquake was approximately 10 kilometers south of Buff Bay, Portland. The earthquake hit 35 kilometers northeast of Kingston. The quake was felt in eastern Jamaica and other parishes. Other countries affected were the Bahamas, Haiti, and Cuba. The National Works Agency, NWA, and the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, are currently conducting damage assessment. Prime Minister Andrew Holness also gave this update.
Damage has been minor, but nevertheless, we are taking all precautions. All our protocols have been activated, and generally, what we have seen is that the damage that has been assessed is not significant, but nevertheless, we are taking all precautions. Just to be clear, we have experienced some break in electricity and communications, but the report so far is that most have been restored. Our airports are open, and we have not received any reports of death. And so we give God thanks for sparing us the worst.
In other news, the Sangster International Airport is implementing several anti-traffic measures in anticipation for a busy winter tourist season. During a recent tour of the facility by Transport Minister Darrell Vaz, CEO Shane Monroe shared the work plans.
Expanding the check-in area, that is work that is going to commence shortly, but in advance of that Christmas season, we're taking out certain areas, concessions that we're going to convert into operational space for passenger circulation. We're doing a lot of work on the roadway. We are splitting the traffic that enters the airport into two separate loops, arrivals and departures. People who are dropping off passengers will not need to go to the arrivals area, and that's going to take just about 50% of the traffic off the arrivals curb.
Other improvements to be added in the short and medium term include more self-service kiosks and biometric machines to reduce passenger processing. Mr. Monroe said the expansion of the immigration hall, upgrades to departure gates, as well as facilities for the movement of travelers are also in the works. Meanwhile, Minister Vaz is assuring visitors that special measures will be implemented to ease travel inconvenience for the upcoming winter season.
I'm satisfied with the plans in relation to MBJ in terms of how they're going to roll out, in terms of the expansion of the airport itself, in terms of additional square footage in critical areas, and of course access to the airport from the major thoroughfare, which is also very important, which will allow for free flow both in terms of vehicular traffic and of course human passenger traffic.
Companies will be given time to comply with the full requirements of the Data Protection Act 2023 beyond the start of the registration process on December 1. The act, which was passed in 2020, takes effect on December 1 this year and speaks to the regulation of data controllers and processors. The assurance came from Minister with responsibility for skills and digital transformation, Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon. She says, based on feedback from the public and private sectors, consideration will be given for compliance to take place on a phased basis.
The plan is for December 1 to start the registration process, and over time we'll give companies some time to comply. And the details around that, given that we've just finally been able to get where our private sector partners and our government partners are in getting ready, we will be able to announce how we will roll in the Data Protection Act and the requirements around registration.
Meanwhile, Information Commissioner Celia Barkley said her office is doing its due diligence to establish the framework to ensure a resilient and robust system.
In our legislation, we have opted to register data controllers. We have taken the approach of, as a first step, being able to identify controllers, being able to identify their data processing activities, and using that information as a foundation based on which we're able to monitor and investigate issues concerning data protection.
Ms. Barkley emphasized that the approach requires the meticulous build-out of essential support systems to facilitate registration. That work, she says, is ongoing in consultation with public and private sector partners. And finally, a total of 126 primary and 56 secondary schools are being targeted for intensive intervention. This is being done as the Ministry of Education and Youth puts measures in place to get back to pre-COVID literacy levels. Portfolio Minister Favour Williams said the targeted institutions are those that received an unsatisfactory rating in certain key performance indicators KPI. These include teaching in support of learning, student academic performance, student academic progress, and curriculum and enhancement programs. Overall, a total of 248 underperforming schools will receive support under the School Improvement Framework to improve literacy rates.
We're back on track for 2023. The grade 4 test was administered and we expect the results by November 17. Our targets, we want to get back to the 80% this year. For 2024-2025, 85%, and for 2025-2026, 90%.
Minister Williams was addressing a recent post-cabinet press briefing. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Twyla Whelan. Thanks for watching.
High-rise buildings are buildings above 10 stories. Mid-rise are between 5 and 9, and low-rise is below 4, 1 to 4. Now, we have a lot of mid-rise and low-rise buildings. We have a few high-rise buildings. When it comes down to high-rise and what we call soft-story buildings, those are the buildings with the open basement parking. That is very common for the apartments especially. What we recommend is that they are designed, as was emphasized earlier, by an engineer, especially for the structural components. And those engineers must follow a code. It could have been the ACI code, or some persons might use the British code to design. But whichever code you use, you must be guided and provide the contractors or the constructors with enough information to execute. Now, some of the guidelines for simpler buildings, like a bungalow, we recommend that the rebars or the steel that they use be corrugated. We used to use the mild steel bars, but over the years, we realized that the corrugated bars provide a better strength for the tensile aspect of the building. Corrugated bars are what you will see at the hardware with the grooves on the bar. So the plain bars are without the grooves, and the corrugated bars are the one with the grooves around the perimeter, the circumference of the bar. The problem is you cannot really design to prevent earthquake, in a sense, because the sine wave and the other factors that comes with the wave, the most you can do is to probably focus on some critical areas. Critical areas for the building is like the column and the foundation. And of course, if your soil type is bad, if it's clay, it is a bad soil type, and so your foundation type has to be different.
Apart from hearing the proverb, lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice, how much do you know about this natural phenomenon? Do you know there is no safe places outside when there is a thunderstorm, and that if you hear thunder, lightning is close enough to strike you? We've been blessed with heavy showers recently, and lightning is a frequent companion. Let's watch this feature and get a better understanding of lightning.
This awesome phenomenon called lightning that illuminates the sky and creates these beautiful pictures is also a hazard that can kill. In its simplest definition, lightning is an electrical discharge that occurs where particles or opposite particles within a cloud begin to separate and cause a transfer of electrons within a cloud. And you could have lightning between a cloud, as in intra-lightning. You could have lightning between two different clouds. You could have lightning between the cloud and the ground. And you could also have lightning, what we call blue sky or blue lightning, where you do not see the cloud. But because of the high vertical extent, you have a charge difference, and you have lightning that you cannot see the cloud, but you still have the lightning. What occurs is that during the day when you have unstable weather conditions, the cloud begins to grow. And as the cloud begins to grow vertically, they reach such a high extent that they cross what is called the freezing line. When the clouds pass the freezing line, you have ice crystals being formed. Now those crystals, what happens is that they are pulled down by gravity, but because you have the updraft of the clouds, they go up. So they go up and down, and that up and down process, along with the transfer of electrons, cause a separation of charge. So what you would have at the top of those large, dark, ominous CB clouds, at the top you have positively charged particles, and at the bottom you have negatively charged particles. And that also induces a charge at the ground. So at the top of the cloud you have positive, and then bottom of the cloud you have negative, and on the ground you have positive. And with that separation of charge, you have the discharge of electricity that you see in a flash that is called lightning. Lightning across Jamaica occurs primarily during the summer months. So the highest frequency is between June, July, August, September, and up to October. That doesn't mean it doesn't occur in other months, because you have systems like cold fronts that occurs anywhere between November and April that will come across from the north and also cause the generation of lightning. So first thing, whenever you see that dark, ominous cloud, that cloud is called a cumulonimbus cloud. That big, gray, dark looking cloud. Those are the clouds that are normally associated with lightning. And once you see that cloud, clearly there is a high possibility of lightning. But on the other side, you might be outside and you might see clear skies, but you might hear the roar or the peal, or you might hear the thunder. And because you hear that thunder, that says to you that lightning would have occurred somewhere. And once you are hearing thunder, chances are you could be in the path of lightning, because even though you're not seeing that dark cloud, it means that there is a separation of charge that would have caused that lightning, and that charge could affect you as well. Depending on the type of year, you might have an increase in lightning strikes as you move from the east of the island towards the west. And it is simply because of how the system moves. So if you have a tropical wave that is coming from the east and you have cumulonimbus clouds growing, clearly you'll have activity in the east. But as the cloud moves towards the west of the island, the heating from the ground will allow for more convective activity, and then you'll have more of these quote-unquote CB clouds and more lightning activity as you move from east to west. Also, the higher you are, some mountainous locations will have more lightning as well because you're higher up, so to speak. So research or analysis of and observation have allowed us to come to those conclusions as well. More importantly is that it doesn't matter where you are, lightning can affect you.
Be part of policy development at the PIOJ Dialogue for Development, Wednesday, November 1 at 10 a.m. Hear about policy imperatives for sustainability with sociologist Heather Ricketts, economist Christine Clark, and ecologist Dale Weber. And at 2 p.m. we discuss transforming our society through technology with ICT consultant Trevor Forrest, CEO of EduFocal Gordon Swaby, and directors of HYC Medical Drs. Fairclough and Core. Reserve your virtual space now at pioj.gov.jm.
Investing, in the simplest terms, is using money to try and make a profit or produce income. While you can invest in different stocks and bonds, have you ever thought of making an investment in agriculture? You never know, this could just be your greatest investment.
Agriculture is an important economic sector, and investing in it may be a wise financial move that gives investors the chance to diversify their portfolios and earn significant returns. So, if you're looking for investment opportunities, why not consider agriculture?
Jamaica has about 200,000 hectares of land that we consider arable, meaning land that we can farm. We only need to farm about 100,000 of that in order to produce sufficiently all the staples that we need, all the protein that we need, all the vegetables and fruits that we need. Of that 200,000 arable land that we have, currently we are only farming about 31,000 hectares that is irrigated. So the provision of reliable irrigation, water, to those acreages is a big challenge. So we have about 15% of our total arable land irrigated. So if we're serious about expanding agricultural output, investments have to be made in agricultural infrastructure, particularly irrigation. So I'm pleased to say today that we have the Essex Valley and the Southern Plains irrigation projects, which are ongoing. And those two projects will bring about 5,200 hectares of land under irrigation. That will move us up to about 18% of our arable land irrigated.
We're introducing a major project that's coming for Jamaica. It's called the Southern Plain Agricultural Development Project. It involves over 2,000 acres of land that will be available to investors across a wide range of crops. We are actually looking to get more Jamaicans involved into agriculture. Food security is very important, and we're also trying to build our export markets as well. We're seeking investors both locally and overseas to enter into current agricultural production and even larger scale production. We have acreages starting from 5 acres up to as high as 300 acres that we're packaging to have investors engage in a wide range of crops, vegetables, root crops, and orchard crops. A good way to start is reaching out to AgroInvest, whether you reach out on our website, that's a great way to connect with us. From there, we can help you to build a plan around the ideas that you have for getting involved in agriculture. We have a team involved in business development. We have technical persons who are in charge of the agri-parks. And we have a market development team which will be rolling out shortly to provide linkages with persons on the agri-park, with buyers locally and in the export markets. Already we have the agri-parks. The major ones in that area are Amity Hall, Spring Plain, and Ebony Park. This development comprises what we call Ebony 2, which is going to be in St. Catherine, and that will be next to Bridgepen, and there will be Parnassus in Clarendon.
The next one is going to be the Pedro Plains, and that is going to move us steadily towards our goal of irrigating our arable lands.
AgroInvest is making a strong thrust to attract investors to the agriculture sector. And so we're ready to engage persons. We can connect you with financing, we can help you with business planning, and we can help you with technical support to grow your investment in agriculture in Jamaica.
It is proven that agricultural investment is 3 times more effective in increasing the income of the poor. So, invest in agriculture today and make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business.
Domestic violence or violence of any nature can have deleterious effects on people's lived experiences. But there is at least one agency in Jamaica that is making a difference when it comes to support and recovery for victims. Let's find out more.
The Victim Services Division provides support for all victims of crime. It does not matter the type of crime that has been committed against you, or doors are open to you.
Some of those victims are persons who've suffered sexual abuse, family members of people murdered, individuals who've experienced robbery and intimate partner violence, otherwise known as domestic abuse. They all can be grouped into one of 3 categories: primary, secondary, or tertiary victim. Who is a primary victim?
The person to whom the crime has been directly committed. Now, in the case where the primary victim is deceased, we will provide the service to their next of kin and their immediate family members, who in this case will be the secondary victims.
Secondary victims may not have had the act perpetrated on them, but they do experience some amount of trauma due to what their loved ones may have endured. Then there are the tertiary victims.
Victim service workers are categorized as tertiary victims. And so we think about persons like the police officers who have to interface with these situations on a day-to-day basis. There is secondary traumatization that they experience. And so it is critically important that persons not only recognize that these events can have an impact on them, be they primary, secondary, or tertiary victim, but also that they need to get assistance to be able to deal with the effects of the trauma that they have experienced.
Tertiary victims also suffer what's called vicarious trauma. This results in some form of distress caused from the horrific experiences of others.
For example, a mother who has a 9-year-old child and hears of the incident where a 9-year-old was brutally murdered. That person will feel some amount of trauma, some amount of fear even because of what has happened to that child when they think of the fact that they too have a 9-year-old child.
A department in the Ministry of Justice, the Victim Services Division, is determined to help.
We have come to recognize that even in the cases where there are physical wounds, when those have healed, the wounds that are created, the psychological wounds and the social injuries that are created are far harder to heal, especially if the person has received no intervention to deal with the trauma that they have faced.
The division provides a support system for individuals, including through counseling sessions which have been extended to e-counseling, an initiative that was boosted by the COVID-19 pandemic. This is a therapeutic process that is based on trauma-informed care to help individuals cope. Another is crisis intervention. This is where experts at the division may need to accompany police officers onto a scene to help victims understand what is happening. It's known as on-the-scene response.
Additionally, we provide services in terms of home visits. So we'll visit the homes of victims and provide services to them there, school visits, and that sort of thing in terms of crisis intervention.
Another part of the treatment focuses on informing the victims of their rights.
We try to assist them through the process, get in touch with the relevant persons to get information that they may need to even understand the process of the investigation, what is happening, what will be happening, or what should happen.
Due to the unnerving experience of a trial and the added traumatization of the victims, the division also gives court support to help persons prepare for trial.
When a victim has to go to court, it can be a very frightening experience for both adults and children. So one of the ways in which we advocate, instead of having the victim being seated in the same area and being able to be seen by the perpetrator and they're seeing the perpetrator and they may feel fearful and not able to go through the process, we ask that they be seated in another area where they don't have to interface with this, or even where they don't have to interface where possible with the general public.
The Victim Services Division also provides a Children in Court program.
In terms of dealing with the children, some of the tools that we use, we may utilize a model courtroom that really depicts the courtroom setting and give them an idea as to where individuals may be seated, who they will interact with, who they can expect to interact with them, that sort of thing. In some instances, we're even able to bring the victim to the courthouse prior to the date so that they can basically see the lay of the land and get a better appreciation and understanding. So when they turn up on that day, it's not all brand new to them. And preparation for us, let me be clear, is really orientating them to the process. We do not interfere with statements. We do not interfere with whatever it is they will be going there to say. We are all about the court process, the layout of the court, and basically educating them as to what they can expect.
You do not have to suffer in silence. You do not have to be afraid.
We operate on a principle of neutrality. It does not matter who you are. It does not matter what your story is. Our doors are open to you once you have become a victim of a crime.
For more information, contact the Victim Services Division in your parish and get help today.
The Planning Institute of Jamaica returns with the Dialogue for Development Lecture, Thursday, November 2 at 10 a.m. Stanford University Fellow and Dean Emeritus of NYU Stern School of Business, economist Dr. Peter Blair Henry will speak on the theme Beyond 60, Evolving, Innovating, Inspiring. That's the PIOJ Dialogue for Development Lecture, 10 a.m. November 2. Reserve your virtual space at pioj.gov.jm.
Thank you for being with us today on Jamaica Magazine. Although most, if not all of us, are afraid of lightning, remember, thunderstorms are a reminder of the majesty and power of Mother Nature. Join us again tomorrow for another interesting journey. Of course, you can visit our website, jis.gov.jm, for more news you can use. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.